So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to our fruit stand example because, I don't know, I just like talking about fruit, I guess. And I'm going to create something that's kind of a parallel to this assignment so that you can see how the structure of something like this is built. And I'm just going to code through it. And if you have questions as I go, please ask them. But I'm basically just going to show you how to develop these two classes, an object class and then what's called a collection class, where there are lots of that object that get to be controlled by that collection. So I want to show you the relationship between these two classes so that you can build this assignment yourself. And this code, the code that I developed for a previous class, is already posted to Canvas, so you should be able to pull that up and see it as I'm writing it. And I can't promise that I'll write it exactly the same, but I'm going to get really close. All right, so let's start with our first class, which is the fruit class. And we will start with the initialization of this. Okay, so we're going to define the initialization method, and we're going to say str name fl price and int quantity. How many of that fruit are there? So we're going to require those on initialization. And we're going to say self.strname equals strname. Now, it should be noted that the parameter that I've created here is the same as the variable name that's inside the property name. Those are actually two separate things. This lives from here to here, and then it gets put in here, and this one goes away. So just so you know, that to avoid confusion, but what I'm doing is just not having to make 20 different variable names for myself, because that gets a little cumbersome after a while. And this is a pretty common design pattern when you're creating something like this, to just use the same name over and over again. Quant equals. Okay, so there is my initialization. So when I create this, I have to give these three arguments. Those three arguments are put into properties in that object that have the same name. I'm also going to define the string method, right? And so that is going to be return. And I'm going to do an f string here. And I'm going to put in self.strname. And I'm going to left justify that in a line of 15. So I'm going to put together a little string here that has a few of these, and you'll see the end result here in just a second. But I'm just taking these values and injecting them. Self.fl price. Now I'm going to do quantity next. Int quantity, and we will right justify. Usually you right justify numbers because we want them to line up on the right hand side, so the zeros place and the ones place and the tens place line up. So I'm going to do 5 there. And then there's one more piece of this, one more f string, that is the price. Self.fl price, and we are going to right justify that in a line of, well, here, let me put a $sign in there, and we're going to right justify that in a line of, let's just say 8. I think that'll be enough. If we have any fruit that's in the hundreds of dollars, then I'll revise that later, because I can easily. Okay, so we've got the fruit class is created, and I can even test this. My fruit equals fruit, and if I want to name that apple, and we'll say we want the price to be 27 cents and the quantity is 10. And so if I print my fruit, then I can see what that looks like. Okay, so there's my apple. There's 10 of them. and 27 cents. And if I don't like how that line looks, it's kind of bugging me how unbalanced it is. Then I can mess around with it a little bit and add a few spaces here and there to kind of rebalance it. So if I run that now, that looks a little nicer. I like that better. So let's say I want to create another fruit. Let's just test this out and make sure it's working the way I want it to. So I'll say my fruit 2, which is another instance, orange. We'll call that $5.27, and let's say we have 100. I'm just making up terrible numbers right now. It's like I've never purchased fruit in my entire life. Oh, and I need to print that one too. Print my fruit 2. So if I print those two fruit objects, now you can see how nicely those right justified numbers line up and do what we want them to do. So that's cool. I like this so far.